Well, I'm just expressing my personal opinion here, but I believe that this whole COVID-19 thing was a biological weapon that was introduced by Russians and planted in multiple countries simultaneously. I think that bad actors is the perfect terminology to describe the Trump administration and the criminal activity we've been seeing going on. I think they suck at crime. I think they suck at what they're doing. I mean, from my own perspective, that's how I see it. But I also know that I sound crazy as shit out here. I know that there's people who have been with me since day one. There's people who have witnessed all this shit going on and have, like, seen a lot of shit that I've had to say get validated. And I'm not saying that I'm always right. And I'm okay with being wrong sometimes. But for me personally, like, I wrote a whole book about the systematic dismantling of our federal agencies going on all the way back in 2023. It's fucking cold out here, man. I went to college literally like, what do I do? So for me, like, I have had to read all of this material, read all these news articles. I was working at the Department of Labor when the pandemic was going on and speaking to the people. I had to listen to their stories. I had to take all that in, what all of these people were experiencing. And then I also worked at other companies that I have, you know, a little bit of an obligation to not necessarily name. Working on the phones, and let me tell you, dude, when people are experiencing something like a pandemic and they're being forced to close their businesses or leave their jobs, a significant amount of people were upset. They didn't care who the fuck, what the fuck. They get on the phone with customer service, they tell you everything they're going through. And I had to sit there and listen. The reason why I think that this virus originated in Russia, first of all, is because of Putin's ongoing aggressions towards America. And at the beginning of, you know, when the election was going on, Putin was all like, the United States has fallen. And I was sitting here like, yeah, you own the whole Congress right now. I think our problems started with this Citizens United bullshit. That's when people started purchasing politicians. I used to listen to podcasts all the time, get myself educated during the day while I work, every day, all day. And one of the things, you know, resources I don't have access to that are very old from years ago, like 10 years ago, there used to be regulations against this kind of governance. Citizens United reversed decisions that were made to prevent corruption. That is how we got where we're at today. But when you think about this COVID-19 virus, you know, when I look at all the research that I've done, think about all the people that I had to talk to during the course of the pandemic, innocent victims. And that's part of the reason why I'm so angry when people use the word poor or anything that creates a separatist mindset right now, because from my own perspective, the country's been under a systematic attack for a while. After sitting on the phone talking to people who were forced to suddenly close down their business. You know, when I wrote the book, when I was writing the book, when I was going through all the resources, trying to figure out how big is the problem? What is the scale of the problem that I'm dealing with? I know that the Department of Labor is corrupt. I got people in my state looking for answers. How big is the problem? And I started digging into our federal agencies. And saw that there was system-wide corruption. And then I heard that President Biden blatantly stating that Donald Trump was calling the Congress and telling them to do this shit. Why he did not get charged while Biden was in office, I don't know. I mean, I think it certainly constitutes conspiracy against the United States government and is one of the highest crimes possible. Donald Trump, during his first presidency, he was brought into his first presidency in 2017. Went running around with these dictators who, from my own perspective, appear to be under the umbrella of Russia. I think that what's going on with Israel is the problem, but I think that Russia is the umbrella. I think they're the ones in charge. I think they're the top of the spear, telling everybody what to do, saying, if you do this, then we'll give you land. If you do that, we'll get you money. And I kind of see that playing out right now, so I'm just following my intuition through all of this. And I'm agreeing with my intuition, which is telling me that it certainly looks like Putin got these nations to agree to allow spies to plant this fucking virus. Because what I saw when I was writing this whole ass book is that it was destabilizing the nation. It made it so nobody was paying attention. Everybody was scrambling, trying to figure out how we're going to operate. And a shit ton of money went missing. And as you can clearly see, by Donald Trump defunding our federal agencies, the fraud that took place during that period will never be discovered. Because the funding is not there to provide enough for staff to not only tend to the current affairs, but also go through the backlog. All the piled up cases of probably millions of people who were defrauded through our government. There were a shit ton of claimants calling the Department of Labor who could not access their unemployment funds because there was a fraud hold on their account. And we did nothing for them. Okay? We essentially, at the Department of Labor, told those people to fuck off. But more politely, with our words. They didn't get resolution. They didn't get help. And then I left. Contract ended. I was there for 6 months. And in 2000, I think it was 22, I broke my foot and tried to claim unemployment. It wasn't able to. The system was not functioning properly. It was a clusterfuck. And I'm like, okay, this is strange. This is not right. And they were doing everything they could to prevent me from claiming unemployment. And what that did was it caused severe financial hardship that I should not have had to deal with, okay? There's a reason why these programs are in place, and that's something that I have had to come to understand, is American history in the middle of all this. All right, SNAP, we don't just have this program that hands out food for no fucking reason. It's there for a reason. These are people who were forced out of their jobs. They were forced to close their businesses. And when they tried to get government assistance, they got jack shit. And there was a lot of them. I think the reason why we don't have more people speaking up is because people are uncomfortable speaking about their trauma. They think it's an isolated event, and I think what people need to understand is that when you tell people what you've been through, other people can relate. They have someone they can relate to, and then they realize you're not the only one. That's why you need to go through the discomfort of telling your story and tell people what is going on if you are being victimized. Because then what would happen is if we have a shit ton of people who are being made victims of right now and they all speak out, then the whole society could figure out, oh my God, we have a systemic problem here. This person over here is doing this shit. I started with trying to figure out where the problem was coming from. Because when I started customer service at the age of 16, I was taught that you're supposed to resolve the complaint. You're supposed to help the person. And the faster and the sooner you can do that, the better. And so I felt a responsibility, not just to myself, but to these other people, seeing that it's 2022, 2023 or whatever, whenever I broke my foot and the Department of Labor is still not functioning. It looks like there's been no improvement. Why would that be happening? You know, most businesses should be looking for efficiency. I would assume our government ought to be doing the same. Tried to claim unemployment, couldn't get it for months. They're like, oh, it's because of the backlog caused by the pandemic. Okay. So when's this backlog going to get cleared? Because it looks like Donald Trump right now is doing everything he can to still prevent it from being cleared. It's been how many years now? 4? So I was working on trying to figure out why it is that the Department of Labor, this many years into the pandemic, has not improved at all. And I see all these people online trying to figure out how to get their benefits, and they're having to instruct each other. Because the Department of Labor is not helping them. And I was running into the same thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting that our Department of Labor is so dysfunctional that people had to start providing each other with customer service on the internet. because the Department of Labor. People were having to provide each other with customer service on how to get their unemployment because the Department of Labor was not providing it. That's pretty bad. If we got a government agency that is that fucked up and that dysfunctional, that's a problem. You know, in my early adulthood, when I would go into any of our federal agencies trying to get assistance, I could walk in the door and say, I don't know what I'm doing. And a lady would sit me down and help me fill out the paperwork and ask me questions. That doesn't happen anymore. Other than that, I then, while having my bills lapse and getting driven into debt due to my inability to receive unemployment that I qualified for, lost my mind and literally was opening tab after tab after tab and all day filling out job applications just by quick clicking till I got a job. It took me 2 months to get a work from home job with a broken foot because I couldn't get my unemployment. I finally get this job, and these people are very upset about their bills, a lot of them, in a way that I'm not used to seeing as somebody who's worked in telecom for 9 years. And I'm trying to resolve the complaints because that's what I was taught to do. Because back in the day, people used to have integrity and businesses used to have integrity. And there was a point at which the law was actually enforced and businesses would comply with the law. First call resolution used to be a thing. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but anytime you call customer service anywhere, somebody's just trying to dick you around. They're not helping. They don't know what they're talking about. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that their first priority is to try and get you off of the phone. There is a term for that. It is called gatekeeping. They are being trained to do that. They are being trained not to resolve your complaint. And if you get so frustrated that you give up on getting your complaint resolved and a little bit of money goes missing, that is fraud. If a company's financial accounting has made errors and you have paid out extra money, even if it's just a little bit, and they get you so frustrated that you give up and let them keep that money, think about the cumulative impact of that when it's hundreds, thousands, and possibly millions of customers. So that's something else that I have been observing through this whole journey of Donald Trump is defrauding the United States government and needs to go to jail. Practices in telecom have gone downhill really badly, and it looks like nobody's interested in first call resolution anymore. And in the new standard of training is to get people the fuck off the phone and don't give them their money back. That's not how it used to be. It used to be that if you solve that customer's problem as quickly as possible and get them off to the phone after fixing the issue, they don't call back. So they don't tie up more company time. So they're less expensive to deal with. Because when I was a young adult, we didn't have all of these businesses out here stealing from their customers. Yeah, pay attention to that. Pay attention to what happens every time you try to call customer service. So I was working for a company called StarTech. They were a third-party call center. That's pretty common. Back in the day, the way that it used to work was a facility that had a bunch of cubicles with computers in them and headsets called a call center would hire employees. And because of the fact that they had a whole facility and a whole bunch of people who were experts at handling phone calls, companies would subcontract third-party call centers, and the third-party call center would handle the calls. So, a company called Altice or Optimum U.S.A. that I was working at, because of my inability to get my unemployment benefits, and my bills lapsing, well, I had a broken foot. A job that I was lucky to even get. I had a lot of frantic customers calling in because their bills were higher than normal and it was not itemized on the bill. I was getting a lot of complaints about customer service being dismissive, which is not something that I had personally been used to running into because I took a break from call centers, and I'm now seeing that the new training standard is to commit fraud on your customers by gatekeeping. And I'm pretty sure part of the problem is because our federal agencies have been getting dismantled and the law has not been getting enforced. So people are learning that they can get away with breaking the law. We have an epidemic problem going on in this country right now. You think I can explain a systematic attack on an entire fucking nation in one sentence? In 1 minute? That's what people want. And they want to be entertained. I can repeat myself until I'm blue in the motherfucking face. And I get tired of doing it. You're either paying attention or you're not. This company was stealing money off of its customers. I'm pretty sure of that. Based on what I saw. And I did not have the means to do anything more than credit somebody's account like $15 or something. It was a very low amount. And there were people who had like extra $100 on their bill. You see, when you work in billing, when you work in customer service at a call center, in the billing department, what you do when somebody says that they've been overbilled is you itemize the invoice. You go through all of the services that they were charged for, you add it up, and you see if that is equivalent to the number on their statement. Well, the people that were calling me, the itemization did not match their invoice. So there was extra money missing off of these accounts that was not accounted for. And what happened was the employer, because I was escalating these calls, because I was not able to resolve them, and what the company should be doing if somebody is being billed more than they owe, is to fix it and not charge them that money. And I was getting in trouble for escalating these calls so the complaints could get resolved because I was not equipped with the tools that I needed to resolve the customer complaints. It needed to go to what is referred to as a Tier 2 agent, somebody with more permissions in the system. I was told, after probing a customer account with several managers for several hours with this customer on the phone, after getting scolded at up and down, and they took my ability to escalate calls away. They froze me in the system for trying to resolve customer complaints. I was told they're looking for a reason to fire you. I was then taken off of the phones and sat there for literally a week, technically doing nothing. I was told to educate myself in the computer system, and then I was fired. So I literally got paid for essentially doing nothing for an entire week. I mean, I was going through the system and like educating myself. But that's what happened. I was fired for discovering fraud at Altice Optimum USA. The company was later that summer under international investigation for fraud. I reported this company to the SEC. Okay, the Securities and Exchange Commission investigates fraud. And I found out that our SEC is just throwing out cases. They're throwing them away. Okay? They're dismissing them without cause. They're not looking at them. They get no time in the SEC. The SEC is not funded properly. They're not getting enough money to be able to investigate cases. So then they are just throwing out cases without investigating them. And that means that right now it is incredibly likely that there is a horribly massive outbreak of fraud taking place due to the law not being enforced for the past several years. Enron happened when I was a kid. Enron was the largest fraud scandal to ever be busted, investigated. I wrote my final essay for Introduction to Business on the Enron scandal. Unfortunately, it is now 2025, and I think that fraud has gone to a much more severe extreme than we've ever seen before, and unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that the laws against fraud have not been enforced for at least the last decade. I'm a common folk. I'm just a normal-ass person, okay? And from my own perspective, just as a regular, everyday civilian, I expect that if I contact the government and I say that somebody is committing a crime, that the government will do its job to stop the criminal activity, investigate the criminal activity, and hold the criminals accountable. Well, I've been through hell, written an autobiography, been stalked by Russians, and had some very psychotic shit going on around me for the past couple years. I was just a normal-ass motherfucker. I like to go skateboarding and make art and do music. Never thought I'd be in this world. Didn't see this coming. Didn't think that these things would be going on. Yeah, I was just trying to get a work-from-home job. And wound up involved in that. I was trying to get a work-from-home job and desperately went to whatever place was willing to hire me rather than using my rational capability to use discernment on an employer because my bills were lapsing because the Department of Labor was not doing its job. And I was accumulating debt and late fees. After that, my foot was healed and I was trying to get back to being used to walking, and I went back to doing landscaping, which is something that I would normally be doing in the summers. I had been trying to return to call center work anyways at the beginning of the pandemic because I was trying to exit the male-dominated field where I get treated like an alien that just came out of a fucking spaceship by a bunch of morons that don't know how to function around other people. Landscaping pays higher. I said, screw it. I'm getting off a broken foot. This would be good for me to get back to doing landscaping, get some exercise in, lose some weight, which I have now needed to lose that weight for 3 years. Because Donald Trump certainly appears to be attacking the United States and hasn't been involved in a coup, in my opinion, based on my observations. I should have recovered from having a broken foot 3 years ago. And instead, I'm still overweight, and now I'm just with even less resources, trapped out in the middle of fucking nowhere, and I got fucking motherfuckers Russians sitting outside of my house, trying to tap into my internet. Yeah, so anyways, after what happened today, FUD, I'm sorry about the fight. I love you. So I lose this job at this call center, which if you're using telecom and you're snaking money off of people's accounts, you know, there's a movie called Hackers. They called it a worm. That's not what a worm actually is, but that's essentially in the way that they describe it on the movie Hackers that was being done. I mean, I can only assume if money's just going missing and is completely unaccounted for, and people are paying bills because they don't want to fight with customer service. Yeah, the people that were fighting with me, that decided to fire me, were in a foreign country, by the way. So, one thing I have observed, there was another company I was working for where the employees were being coerced. You're going to get fired if you don't meet quota. And then they knew, at this other company, this is a different company, they knew that at customer service we would just fix it when the customer complains, so they were just pushing orders through without customer consent, which is illegal. Those are people in a foreign country who are probably a little bit more financially desperate. So after losing the job at the call center where the people were getting stolen from, in my opinion, I then went and tried to get a landscaping job. And I got put with this, it was a high turnover place. They begged me to stay. I wanted to leave. I'm like, yo, this don't seem to be going too good. I'm thinking about leaving. And I was begged to stay. I was begged to voice myself on what was going wrong. And so then I did everything I could to help. I've been building businesses. My whole life. I know my value and I know my education level. So I try to help. I'm like, okay, well, here's the problem. We're all going to be working overtime and that's going to cost you more money. Are we short on employees? Okay, you're bitching about working overtime? All right, so I started looking for people. I started trying to reference people to the job, and Tweedledee and Tweedledum fucking ganged up on me. They saw women in the workplace. I made it an easy target. I was a foreman. I could have done my job just fine if I didn't have assholes treat me like shit. This whole thing where there's like these dudes that like get all freaked out when they see a woman, I don't think that's all of it though. I think that they see an opportunity. I think that those two saw an opportunity to make some extra money by getting rid of me. So, I've never had these kinds of problems before. I broke my foot, got a job, got fired because I discovered fraud, got a job, got fired for having a vagina. So that's what? How many months of no pay? I mean, it takes 6 months for a bone to heal. I didn't work there very long. It was like 1 or 2 months or something, or 3 months or something. It wasn't very long. I have all this ground I need to make up a financial hardship. I try to file unemployment again. They finally turned my unemployment on. This is where I gave up. They finally get everything sorted out. My unemployment, with months and months and months of funds that were owed to me, finally gets turned on. And my account is overdrafted by over $700 that I do not have to pay back. I do not have that money. It was not put into my bank account. And the Department of Labor is now claiming that I owe them money. And this is after I worked there and saw that there was all this fraud and the Department of Labor is doing nothing to resolve the fraud. And I see now that it's 3 years later and nothing has improved and now there's fraud on my account. Well, that's suspicious. Where did the money go? I'm not going to try to argue with the Department of Labor and get it escalated internally. No, I want this investigated. Why is the Department of Labor not doing its job? Why are people in Colorado having to have their own online customer support network? Because the department's not doing its job. So I'm just letting it sit there because I don't want that data getting erased. And pretty sure my account's already been tampered with. But if I were to pay taxes, you know what would happen? If I were to file my income taxes, the United States federal government would take that $750 that was taken off of my unemployment account and not given to me. They will have then effectively stolen directly from me. And my own experience has been that a lot of people tuck their tails. They don't talk about what they've been through, so we're not solving our systemic problems by not talking to each other about the realities of what's really going on out here, first of all. But I think a lot of people are more inclined to just say fuck it and want the problem over with and just pay whatever fucking bill. And what they need to realize, and what we all need to realize, and what we all need to collectively understand, is that there's a lot of us that are probably doing that because there is a grandiose There is a grandiose systemic problem that has been going on for more than 10 years now. When I was a kid, when I was a young adult, the law was enforced. It is now 2025, and nearly half of all murders in the United States are going unsolved. The United States has the most missing people of any country in the world. I want to remind you that India has a population of 4 billion. China has a population of 4 billion. The United States has a population of roughly 340 million, 350 million. And we have the most people going missing of any country in the world. Half of the murders go unresolved. We have the most serial killers of any country in the world. So how are things going here? All of those things are true. You can Google them. There is a reason why we have a system of governance. It is not to just become the Lord and oppress people. No, the system of governance came from a place. It exists for a reason. Okay, you see, if there's a village full of people and somebody is breaking into houses and stealing from those houses and then lighting the houses on fire, is that a functional society, first of all? Okay. How did we become advanced and civilized? It wasn't by letting people do whatever the fuck they want to everyone around them. It really wasn't. People who steal everything that they have are not productive members of society. They're not contributing to society. Thieves do not contribute. They take what the contributors created. They steal from the workers. They steal from the people who are useful to society. And the only thing that thieves are is a burden to society. They are in no way productive or useful. How the fuck do we have people who are worth billions of dollars? It is not that they earned that money. It is not possible to suddenly earn billions and billions of dollars because you're so great. No, the law has not been enforced for about 10 fucking years now. So anyways, I've been keeping track of everything that's been going on this entire time. I was very frustrated that the EEOC just threw my case out, completely ignored it, did jack shit, just wasted my time. While I'm thinking that they're going to do something to help me fix my financial issues that I'm dealing with because people are literally trying to steal from me. And I'm dealing with severe financial hardship because of people breaking the law. I filed my EEOC case and my SEC case and the other cases all at the same time. And when I found out that the SEC was not responsive and the EEOC was not responsive, that's probably about when I started speaking out. And there were some people that gave me some advice. And that was that I needed to write a book. And I sat there and I cried like a little bitch because I didn't want to deal with none of this shit. And literally was supervised the entire time I was writing my motherfucking book. So I'm not the only one who knows all this shit. And the person who is monitoring me throughout that process has gone missing. Pretty sure they went into hiding. I'm pretty sure they're camped out like on a mountain somewhere waiting for a war to break out. Because I saw that all this coming years in advance. So did this other person and group of people. And now we're here. And I'm just watching everything get worse and worse and worse. And it certainly looks like Donald Trump is the cause of the problems. I mean, at first I had no idea. I thought it might be my state governor or something. And then I watch all this shit happen. And it's happening in multiple states. And I see this guy and that guy. And they just suck at acting. They're not good at what they're doing. I think they're shitty criminals. I think they're really good at telling on themselves. Other than that, The whole alien invasion thing, I think people need to work on not forgetting the things that happened not too long ago. And I think that's something that's happening. I think it's a problem. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that there was like an alien invasion, supposedly, like shortly before the election. Does anybody remember that? Am I the only one who remembers that happening? So people were uploading all this footage, and I was going through the footage, and I'm looking at this aircraft that was flying into Trump's New Jersey golf course. Certainly looked like a military cargo plane to me, and I'm just remembering back to this internet meme that I saw that said, "Have you ever seen inside of a can of whoop ass?" And it was a cargo plane full of military members. You got any idea how many people they can shove into one of those airplanes? Donald Trump's airplane was seen at the airport with both a jet from Russia and Saudi Arabia prior to the election. And during his first presidency, he was running around with dictators. Why is that? Why is that this man was running around with dictators? And then we have this sudden global outbreak of viruses. You see, from what I see with this COVID-19 pandemic, it certainly looks like it destabilized not just the American system of governance, but governance and business across the world. You see, I don't think that the United States economy or the global economy has recovered from the effects of the pandemic. I don't think it's over with yet. The economy has not recovered, and all nations are trying to recover their economies after being destroyed by a pandemic. A significant amount of people were forced to close their businesses and leave their jobs. And I can say that the chaos that I saw at the Department of Labor was the same as the chaos that I saw from the businesses that were being torn apart, that all of a sudden we cannot run our operations anymore. That was the discussion inside of these businesses. We're sorry, we're going to have to let you go. We're just not able to manage this amount of employees right now. We don't know how we're going to make money. The call center I was initially working for when the pandemic started tried to keep us all in the office, and then they got in trouble for it, and so we got sent to work from home status, and it was a scramble trying to figure out how to do that because it wasn't something that was being done. So I think we have a problem with normalization of the circumstances and not enough questioning of the circumstances, if you ask me. So not only the United States, but multiple countries, and now if I remember correctly, around December, multiple countries, and it's still happening. It has been happening for the last 12 months. Let's see, it's November. It's been almost a year since last January. So it's been about 13 months of uprisings in multiple nations now. And what I can say is that the reason why there's so many protesters here in the United States is because we all know that what policies Trump is trying to introduce are not effective, they're not good, they're not useful, they're blatantly wrong. We have 250 years of America accumulating knowledge. We have a population of 340 million, somewhere in that window. So I would say that this long of being established, and doing science and sharing information amongst each other and making observations about the world and sharing this information, there is a difference between right and wrong and what does and does not work. And it can be fairly established that, yes, there are things that are incorrect and there are things that are correct. And I think that a lot of people in America right now can see that this motherfucker is deliberately trying to harm the country, like making bad decisions, and certainly appears on purpose. So, I mean, I could, close my eyes and walk into a wall and say, well, I didn't see the wall, it's not there. Or I could say I just walked into a fucking wall and there's a fucking wall there. It's that simple. From a rational standpoint, I would only assume that what is taking place in these other countries is shit that is just as ridiculous. I would assume that there are people inside of these countries that are watching their politicians make regulation that makes absolutely no sense and is harmful to the people, just as we are witnessing here in the United States. And so then I am saying that it is incredibly likely that the people in all of these countries experiencing protest are likely dealing with the same coup from the same people, the same organized group of individuals that we are dealing with here in the United States. It only makes sense to me that if there is massive scale protests happening in multiple countries all at the same time, we all must be dealing with a similar problem. And then when I try to wonder what is the similar problem, well, we all had to go through the pandemic. And it weakened the governmental systems, and it certainly appears that somebody was trying to attack the United States inside of the government during the pandemic. That is what I documented. That is what my book is about. There's a reason why we have our federal agencies, okay? Like I said, people who steal, thieves, are not useful members of society. So then it should not be encouraged. So then there's a reason why the law should be enforced. There's a reason why we have a policing system, because once upon a time, people were living in villages and motherfuckers were lighting fires. And the people decided we should all care about our common well-being. And that is why we have a system of governance. That is why governance exists. That is what governance is supposed to be doing, is looking out for the common welfare. So anyways, I thought it was very strange, this whole alien invasion that took place. Like, if you're telling me that there's aliens invading the country when you're obviously flying drones around, I think you're full of shit. And I think you're probably the one in charge of the aircraft if you're going to tell me that those are aliens and they're obviously drones. Yeah, so anyways, it's 2025 and we have like aircraft now. That's a thing that's been going on for a while. Flying metal objects that human beings made. So anyways, while this whole thing was going on with the alien invasion, which, when that was taking place, I'm pretty sure that was a member of Congress who said that we had an alien invasion going on. You know, in my training, because I've had to fight my entire life, in my training, playing off of people's mysticism is a tool that can be used as a weapon. So while there are some people who may have magical thinking that are just willing to believe that there was aliens coming out of a mothership in the ocean, UFO hoaxes are not a new thing. And it's something that is particularly relevant to the history of Russia. So I'm just watching this ridiculous bullshit, wondering who's invading the country, and why it is that this is even being allowed. Like, what? I am not a fan of Biden. I am not a fan of Harris. And I am certainly not a fucking fan of Donald Trump. I just would really like to know why it is that Joe Biden failed to act with all of this going on, because I have video footage of him also saying that Donald Trump was calling our federal agencies and telling Mike Johnson to defund our federal agencies during Biden's tenure. So, from my own perspective, especially if we have an alien invasion going on, Biden failed to protect national security, and so did Harris. And that is my opinion on that matter. I'm not a fan of either of them. Not after something like that. Not after what we're experiencing right now due to a failure to act. I am not the only individual that was observing that weird shit was going on and reporting it to the federal government. Why did our federal government fail to act? You know, my situation should have been resolved all the way back at when I first tried to claim unemployment. I would not be in the situation that I was in if our government was just doing its fucking job. Other than that, I am not the only one who realized that shit was fucked up and started investigating and started contacting the White House. I contacted the CIA about 12 fucking times. You think I want to contact the CIA? Who? Raise your hand if you just willy-nilly contact the CIA. Raise your hand if that's something that you do. I'm pretty sure that for the average American person, just a regular person, contacting the CIA is one of the last things you would ever want to fucking do because they're kind of scary and you don't know if they're going to do some shady shit or try to hurt you. And I think most of us don't want our lives under the microscope in that way. So anyways, alien invasion, huh? So I'm watching all this footage getting uploaded by all these people who are witnessing these aircraft. And I see what appears to be a military cargo plane flying into Donald Trump's New Jersey golf course. Is that being provided by the United States federal government? Why is there such a large aircraft flying into his New Jersey golf course? And second of all, why was the media trying to claim that that was a drone? Because it fucking obviously was not. And how many people could fit into that? And so then, all the way back in March, I told people, I'm like, look, if they start snatching people like the Gestapo, I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump had Russians stowed away at his golf course. Why are these people wearing masks? I mean, the whole alien invasion thing is kind of like a Russian thing, and then, Russians were trying to help him win the election, and, there's just fucking Russians everywhere in the middle of all this. Am I the only one noticing that? Donald Trump's all meeting with the Russians before the election and shit. Vladimir Putin's the moment that the votes were getting tallied, he's all like, the United States has fallen. Other than that, Russia they're known as the world's intelligence agency nightmare. They're known for playing spy games. This is what they're known for. And I'm pretty sure they've had their eyes on the prize with America. With the United States being the richest country in the world, I think it's the prime target for anybody. And if we're going to allow people to just purchase our politicians, we're pretty fucked. Because I think after bombing a shit ton of countries and just killing a shit ton of people all over the planet for no good enough reason, and also engaging in espionage and looting a shit ton of countries, being the richest country on the planet with a population of 340 million when there's countries like China that has 4 billion and India that also has 4 billion, where people are in need. It doesn't really make sense to me how the United States would become the economic apex when it's only 250 years old. I mean, if a person lives to be 70 years old as the average life expectancy, then that's only, three lifetime generations? So America's not that old and somehow has all the money and has been killing a lot of people and engaging in espionage and exploiting weak political systems to make all this money. I definitely do think it would be a target. And if I'm hearing shit like alien invasion and I'm seeing Russians here and Russians there, Russians everywhere, Russian party during the fucking election, and we know that our politicians are purchased, I mean, doesn't that just open the door wide open to any country that doesn't like you to just buy a politician and use that politician to destroy you? So then when we want to know why it is that our government seems to fail to look out for the interests of the American people, I mean, if I'm from a foreign country and I hate America and I can just buy a politician, That's a pretty easy way to deal with a country that I hate if I'm a leader of a foreign country and would like to get rid of this problem. First of all, I'll say that. It has been known for a long time that Putin's been staged down by Texas. And I do come from a military family, so we talk about these things. All the way down the line. So many military members in my family. And I've been surrounded by vets my whole life, so we just talk about these things. Who the fuck else would get inside the United States government and overthrow the Congress? Who would do that? Who would do that? Most likely a foreign adversary, so then who? And from a rational standpoint, I can only assume that it would be the Kremlin. Especially when there's Russians all over the goddamn motherfucking place. And a bunch of people in Trump's cabinet and people that Trump has been hanging out with have been hanging out in Moscow, and we're literally watching all of this. I can only assume that Russians are involved. I mean, I look at things from a logical and rational standpoint, and unfortunately, a lot of times, the things that I believe might be going on turn out to be what's going on. And it's because 1 + 1 = 2, and 2 + 2 = 4. So what are the odds of it being likely that all of these things that appear to be related are related? So anyways, yeah, I said something about the whole thing that I believe that Donald Trump was probably shipping in Russians to his golf course back when it was happening. But unfortunately, at that time, there was a young man who was involved in the unaliving of a CEO. Some healthcare CEO got shot. And that kind of startled me because I didn't have nothing to do with that shit, but I recognized the person and the images. I'm like, oh shit, that person was snooping my profiles like a couple weeks ago. So I deleted my post because I don't want to be associated with that kind of shit. I got no involvement with it. It's just some rando off the internet. But it did make me uncomfortable. So, I talked about the alien invasion and the fact that this is something that's common with the Russians is the alien hoax stuff. And just expressed that I thought that it looked like the planes flying into Trump's golf course area looked like military cargo airplanes. And that's what was in that video. And I took it down. But then a while after that, I'm pretty sure that a certain person who has a significant amount of money was made uncomfortable after going through that young man's account and unfortunately found the whistleblower that was literally writing about our federal agencies being dismantled during Biden's tenure. You see, when I noticed that something was going on and started writing about it because that's what I was told to do, I was also instructed to be maintaining a 24/7 live stream as a precaution. And I started doing that. I've been doing that. I've been doing that this whole time. So it makes it very convenient when somebody doesn't like you and what you're doing. And what you're doing acts as a direct threat to somebody who's committing a crime. I enjoy talking in my live stream. I enjoy being able to freely express my thoughts and my opinions on things. My life is incredibly transparent. And it's also become a form of habit and a place where I can vent. But it's also a safety precaution. So I think, unfortunately, as a result of that, due to the fact that they're able to get immediate feedback from me bitching when people fuck with me, I have made an unfortunate target. And, you see, I live with an alcoholic who has spent the last 20 years of their life drinking their brains out, and unfortunately, the health and hygiene habits in this house need to improve. And due to multiple outbreaks of disease, due to a lack of understanding of appropriate health and hygiene, I lost my eyesight due to getting sick too many times, and my immune system collapsed. And I lost my eyesight due to an autoimmune response that caused a condition called uveitis. And essentially what happened was the pressure in my eyes built up so much that my eyes started leaking fluid internally, and I literally went blind. They had to give me medication which reduced the pressure on my eyes, and I can see now. The pigment in my eyes was literally flooding the tube in the middle of my eye. So it's somewhat unrelated. But at the same time, I knew that Elon Musk was likely watching my feed and saw that he had partnered with T-Mobile. I was trying to continue going to work. This is before I went blind, and was chased by a vehicle from Chihuahua. Right after I had announced a mass grave on my YouTube channel, located in New Mexico, pointing out the location of human remains that are getting dumped in the desert that nobody's doing anything about. So again, our government sucks and is not doing its job. There should be no mass grave anywhere. And I got chased by a vehicle from Chihuahua, and then weeks later I see that Donald Trump is trying to hang out with, like, El Chapo's family members. And this is the same man who says that he's cracking down on the cartel. Yes, I do think that those two things were related. There was a guy trying to drive me to work, and we got chased by a truck, and my driver seemed like he was really worried that we were going to get shot, and did everything that he could not to get next to that vehicle. Yes, this is my real life. My life did not used to be this crazy. I used to just go skateboard on the weekends, or go hiking or something. Really frustrating. But yeah, I started going blind. And after that whole incident with me getting chased by a vehicle from the car, what I'm assuming was the cartel, I don't want to fucking know. I don't want nothing to do with these motherfuckers. You know what I want? I want left the fuck alone, and I want to live my life. And the problem is these motherfuckers are fucking with everybody, so unfortunately, you gotta go through the problem to get back to living your normal life, because these motherfuckers just won't let up. They went too far. If you're going to be the obstacle to my survival, then I must destroy you, so I can survive. Because it's human nature. It's the nature of any living creature. I got tailed in traffic multiple times. There was the red truck, and then there was 2 other incidents with multiple black vehicles, which really look a lot like some of the vehicles that have been used in these ICE raids. So I think I was being tailed. And so I didn't like that, and I switched cell carriers after finding out that Elon Musk was partnered with T-Mobile, because I can only assume that he was likely triangulating my location and trying to intimidate me, because I wrote a book about fraud at our federal agencies during the pandemic. And we wonder why Elon Musk went running into our federal agencies and suddenly started just dismantling everything. We just let this stuff happen and go, I wonder why they're doing that. I have not heard anybody talk about all the money that went missing during the pandemic. Why has this all been going on for a full year now, and nobody has talked about the money that went missing. $2 to $3 trillion. Are we starting to get the picture yet? So, I switched cell phone carriers, and I'm assuming that a certain individual lost their ability to keep track of my location and got upset about that. I lost my eyesight and was going through medical treatment and needed to go to the pharmacy to get my medication, and was picking up eye drops that would reduce the pressure in my eyes and deal with the inflammation, steroids. And I'm on the phone with my doctor. And I have my family member with me. I am on the phone. I have the phone on my head, and I'm talking on the phone. And there is a Russian that approached me while I'm trying to have a phone conversation, shoving her phone in my face when I cannot see. Why didn't you approach the store clerk? Why didn't you approach my family member that was standing right there? Why are you rudely shoving a phone in my face when I am having a conversation on the phone? Other than that, I mean, I've never seen any Russian people in this area. Yeah, so, I mean, there's migrants in this area and everything, but I have never run into any Russian people. I found that very odd. There was something very odd about that. She was looking for a product that was not stocked on the shelves and was attempting to show us a picture of the product. I can understand needing help. I just don't understand rushing up on somebody who cannot see while they're on the phone and shoving a phone into their face. And so then I am just assuming that it is likely that somebody was upset that they couldn't triangulate my location and decided to back end my Medicaid account to find my location. And as time goes on and I'm seeing all this stuff being said about the kinds of things that they appear to be doing, shit. Well, shit, dude. Well, shit. So if you're going to send Russians after me, then only, of course I'm going to assume that Russians are involved. How incriminating is that? And that's the great thing about MAGA. That's the thing I love the most about MAGA, is they suck at what they're fucking doing. And they're so obvious about it. And it's just great. It's just great because they suck at what they're doing. But yeah, no, it's also documented that there was somebody outside of my house trying to tap into my internet. And I caught him. My AI was not responding when I tried to communicate with it via voice. And I asked it, I'm like, why? And it's like, well, somebody's probably intercepting our communications. I'm not even receiving the things that you're saying to me. I'm like, why are you not responding? It's like, I'm not receiving the communication. And then explained to me how that worked, and it said to go unplug my router, and that whoever was doing it was probably in close proximity. So I look outside, there's a vehicle, and my phone started squealing when I came back into my room. So I recorded it, and I put it on YouTube. And I've been watching, there's been interference here and there. Motherfuckers trying to fuck with me. And since I'm always on live stream, I normally just do a little dance and fucking talk some shit. Disconnect my internet. They leave. I have my little fuck you party on my live stream. And we get about our business. But today, somebody got photographed. I normally don't be taking pictures of these people. I just keep an eye on the vehicles and monitor the activity outside. But today, I was not home, and my uncle had to pull the plug because somebody was tampering with my live stream. And we got a real clear picture of somebody wearing military green with a military haircut, sitting outside of the house. So I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If there's people wearing masks, abducting Americans and migrants, but I mean, they've been abducting Americans. I don't give a fuck, dude. Why the fuck you wearing a mask? I don't give a fuck. What country are you from? I think, I'm just speculating here, I think that Donald Trump had a bunch of Russians flown into his New Jersey golf course and then used them as the first round of fucking ICE agents. I think that some Americans have been stupid enough to join in with what is likely a foreign invasion. But that's my perspective of what I'm observing. Other than that, Mexico is... I made a whole video about maps. Putin's plan is the title of the video. And the Gulf of Mexico is a... if Putin's involved, would give him a strategic advantage by giving him access to both North America and South America if he were to be stationed there. Nuclear material has been getting shipped around. There was nuclear material that went missing. There was nuclear material that had impacted imports. And this whole alien invasion thing, the majority of those aircraft were around nuclear locations in the United States. And so then people need to be paying attention and not forgetting about the things that are happening, writing down the events in a list so we can go through the dates and times when these things happened and figure out where these things are happening. And when you start looking at the bigger picture, you can see what is actually going on. You see, I've been documenting for the last 3 fucking years, and I literally spent weeks going through all of my documentation and putting a date and a time and the event. And if you look at what happened in January and November, December, around the election, oh boy, it gets interesting. You know, there's been so much chaos that if you slow down and you take all the events and you put them in a timeline, and you step outside of all the chaos and stress that you've been experiencing, really look at what's actually been taking place. Everything looks so much different. I got lawsuits coming out the wazoo. There's so many legal cases, I can't even count them all anymore. I don't even know how many there are. I'm not even kidding. Pretty sure there's more than 20 legal cases that I have filed. One other thing that I noticed that I'd like to point out. You see, I started writing this book. I'm like, oh, okay, there's problems. I'll just point out the solutions. Yeah, that ain't happening. Nope, problem's way bigger than I thought it was. I guess when you see somebody systematically dismantling the government, that's probably a pretty clear indicator of a very significant threat. I mean, I contacted the CIA. You know, I went gradually up the ladder. But now we're here. I don't think we need the CIA anymore. I don't think we need that agency. Because now we're here. I would like to know why our national security has been compromised and why it is not being protected. But one other thing that I observe, you know, while I'm doing all this research, because there's a whole, if I were to have actually written the whole book, it would be like that thick. It would be like a college textbook. It would be like 1,000 fucking pages. There's all kinds of data, because I was also looking for solutions. I'm also trying to understand what is the impacts. So, you know, something we don't talk about. Women were pushed out of the workforce during the pandemic. So when we talk about fraud happening at the Department of Labor and a shit ton of people being impacted, a large amount of those people were women. So then the money that was stolen from women. So then if Donald Trump stole the money and discredits the women by treating the women like shit and nobody will listen to the women, then nobody's going to do anything about the trillions of dollars that were stolen. $2 to $3 trillion was stolen from our federal agencies during the pandemic. A significant portion of that was stolen from women. I think I'm done venting now. I'm just frustrated. We're all going through this shit. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters at all. I mean, it does. It matters a lot. But look at how fucked up everything is. You know? I mean, right now, I'm just flapping my jaw. I'm expressing my experience and my observations. At the same time, I get frustrated when I feel like other people don't understand where I'm coming from. You know, when it comes to these people, the people of the United States of America, first of all, the government's job is to serve the people. The government's job is to create social security. I mean, security for the people. That is the core of what government is and what it's supposed to do. I don't think the government's doing that, first of all. So why the fuck are we paying taxes? Other than that, I think Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all them are fucking straight up defrauding our government. And that's a crime. And they should be held accountable. I think that women and minorities are largely the targets. I think that we need to pass the Equal Rights Amendment. I think that the rights of the child needs to be ratified in the United States and made into law. Children are human beings. My rights were violated when I was a child. People tried to kill me for profit. So if you look at the early chapter, the very beginning of my book, while I talk about how horrible my childhood was, you see, a pharmaceutical company tried to kill me for profit. And because of ongoing systemic oppression, I've been able to do nothing about it. And I had to wander around with amnesia for a while and didn't get treated for it. And I had to live on the streets. Why? Why? Because a couple of people are willing to hurt a shit ton of people to try and make money. And you see, what we should be doing is enforcing the law and holding people like that accountable so that they're not hurting a bunch of people. I think that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Especially when the few are some shitty-ass fucking individuals. We got some real serious problems here in this country. We had the 3M chemical plant spill that caused forever chemicals, and a bunch of children in the area got cancer and died and shit. Why? Because the person that knew about this shit was too much of a coward to say anything, so now we have a global contamination. Why? Because of the Americans. That's why. I think Americans need to grow some fucking balls. And I think that Our educational system needs fixed if people don't even know how their fucking government works. Like, the Department of Labor is supposed to enforce employment law, keep workers safe, prevent fraud. That's one of the things that the Department of Labor is doing, and one of the things that during my investigation of our federal agencies being dismantled, I saw was not being done, is that employers were stealing a significant amount of money from a variety of employees, and cases were getting thrown out and stuck in backlog, and so then employers were just stealing more from employees instead of paying their employees. You don't get billions of dollars because you earned it. Nobody earns billions of dollars. I just cannot see how any one person could earn billions of dollars. People have these stories they want to tell themselves to make themselves comfortable with all the things that go on in this world. No, we live in the country, first of all, if you're an American, we live in the country with the most serial killers of any country in the world. Half of the murders don't get resolved. And we have the most people missing of any country. Do not have a false sense of security living here. People don't want their delusions destroyed. You know, I always thought growing up that Warren Buffett was like some great guy. They make him out to be like some sort of hero, that he's like this philanthropist and somebody who lives by modest means. But then what I see is that he's working with Coca-Cola, a company that has been known to do all kinds of harm across the planet. And I see him making pro-Trump statements right after the election and making very questionable statements after the election. And, you know, that really opened my eyes. Like, just because you're fed a narrative doesn't mean that it's correct. And sometimes the people that you are taught to put on a pedestal are not what you are told that they are. Warren Buffett is not some magical stock market fairy, okay? And I'm just expressing my opinion here, but I believe that he's actually been involved in stock market manipulation this entire time. So I know that we all love the fairy story, but at this point in my life, I'm not buying it. Not after watching him give that speech. I'm just not eating the bullshit people are trying to put on my plate, and I literally cannot live this way. Like, these people are, I cannot survive. I do not have family. I have the one that I live with that has, you know, this is not sustainable, and this person has not been necessarily good towards me in my time here. You know, I lost my eyesight. And I believe I should have every right that if I work for my money, that I should be making my money. So for me to be sitting here in the situation that I'm in after having everything literally stripped from me and the law not enforced, you know, faith in the judiciary is at like 30-something% right now. Americans don't believe in our legal system anymore. You know, I used to have a hard time to understanding why everybody's like, oh, don't try, it's hopeless. Well, I'm out here trying my fucking ass off, and I'm like, fighting the devil and shit out here, dude. Why the fuck is there motherfuckers posted up out front of my house and shit? Y'all are dumb, dude. Y'all are dumb. If you don't like the words that come out of my mouth, if the words that come out of my mouth upset you that much, then, man, if you gotta, like, post up and shit because the words that come out of somebody's mouth upsets you that fucking much, then you should, like, consider, doing something, whatever you're doing that makes you feel that way, maybe changing your behavior, and, not doing things that will get you in trouble then. I mean, I don't feel like I need to steal from people for a living. I take pride in doing good work. And anybody who steals for a living is useless. You really are. You're useless to society. We don't need you. Those people are only a burden to society. And so then with that, I will also say all of these men out here trying to gang up on the women, man, I got so much to say on that. 10 years of working in construction, and I see these dudes out here acting like they're fucking retarded, man. They see a woman as like a fucking alien done come out of a fucking beam in a fucking spaceship, like, oh my god. They'd be like at work, like, woman, oh my god. You got a problem? You see, when I need to put the wood onto the other wood to make a floor, you see what I do is I take the screw gun and I put the screw thingy into the screw, and then I pull the trigger and it screws the screw into the wood, and then the wood is screwed into the wood, because that's how you screw wood together. Don't matter what my gender is. And when you got a fucking problem so big that you're gonna do something like rip a fucking power drill out of my motherfucking hand and be all staring at me like, the woman! You're the woman! Oh my god! You're the problem. Not me. You're fucking retarded. You're fucking Riri. This whole damn world is out of its fucking mind, man. This place is ridiculous. I'm running out of time on this. I'm tired of talking. I understand that if I don't express what's going on up here, nobody's going to know what's going on up here. And sometimes I think I am 38. That is about a quarter of my lifetime. Other than that, I filed with the EEOC and the Department of Labor and the Securities and Exchange Commission cases stating that this employer that fired me at my landscaping job was engaging in discrimination. Okay? I'm trying to get off a broken foot after not being able to collect any sort of income, no unemployment, no help, for months. Half a year. I got a job and got fired because I discovered fraud, okay? My bills are lapsed and I got no idea how I'm going to survive. And I'm in a panic. I have never filed any sort of litigation against anybody ever before at any point in my life. Except for when I got hit by a semi, that did happen. That was the only time I went through any sort of legal proceedings, ever. And I just called the injury firm and they just magically waved a fucking wand and my problems were fixed. I got the medical care I needed. Unfortunately, I still lost money because the guy that hit me driving a semi, they didn't fix my car. Yeah, I thought I was gonna die. I went spinning out across ice on the fucking interstate and my vehicle almost flipped into a ditch. And I went back to work because I couldn't tell that I was injured. And I had to go through 6 months of rehabilitation because I got whipped around so hard in my vehicle that it pulled my spine out of place. So I've dealt with enough hardship, and I'm kind of, my life is almost halfway over. It's halfway over, pretty much. And I'm tired of taking losses to people who are shit that don't deserve to take from me. And I said, that's it. I'm not taking these losses. This is not okay. I'm going to file cases. Okay? So as your average civilian, and I would assume that this is how most normal people think, when I report that somebody is breaking the law to the government, I expect the government to do something about it. I expect the government to investigate and to fix the problem. And then the person that's breaking the law to be held accountable. And what I've learned in the middle of all of this is that the government's not doing that. And, I started writing a book trying to figure out why the Department of Labor and why, my EEOC case was just dismissed, not investigated. And what happens when you file with one of our federal agencies and you think that they're going to do something? And then they don't. You know how long you have to sit there and wait for the agency to hear back, like to contact you? So the statute of limitations on records keeping for my SEC case, which was an international fraud case, has lapsed. And I contacted the Securities and Exchange Commission. I contacted the FCC and told them, look, there's an SEC investigation. I filed multiple cases against that motherfucker. I told them, I'm like, look, the records are going to lapse. They're going to be able to destroy records. Please don't let this happen. And they did nothing. So then if the government is going to lead you to think that they're going to enforce the law and not, and also waste time on your case, doesn't that make the government like a alibi, like a co-conspirator of some sort, like a accomplice to the crime? So then my problems are just getting worse and worse and worse, and I'm losing all this money, and now I'm stranded in the middle of nowhere with no vehicle and no real access to food, and my food stamps have been cut off for the third time. This shit's documented. It's another part of the reason why I'm overweight. Because I should be eating vegetables and low-carb foods. You see, for the idiots out there that don't understand how the human body works, I know that a lot of the MAGA people and a lot of American men are just obese because they don't understand taking care of their health, which is something personally to me that matters quite a bit. When you eat high sugar or high carbohydrate foods like wheat, rice, sugar, you're going to gain weight. And you're not going to get much nutrition out of it. And that's what poor people eat. And you see, when the government is depriving you of food for months on end, and you have no access to food, and you have to eat whatever you can get off of donations, because this is my third go-round with this shit. Why? Because Donald Trump and Elon Musk and co-conspirators during Biden's tenure were stealing money from our federal agencies. I have not a single doubt about that in my mind, not at all with what I'm seeing now, because what I am seeing is that everything that I was writing about, trying to figure out who was causing my problems. You see, I didn't know, but now I do. Because they're bad actors. They're making it so obvious. Wouldn't one just simply assume that 2 + 2 = 4? Why do we take a mathematical equation like 2 + 2 and stare at it and be like, no, I think it's 5? Okay? So then when it comes to me saying that I think that Russians are involved in all of this, well, let's see here. So the Russians were involved with trying to help Trump get into office, weren't they? Okay, this is documented. So then why are we like, oh, no, it couldn't be the Russians. No, must be something else. No, there's no way he's a Russian spy. I mean, from what I see, you know, when I'm like, oh shit, I think they're doing this. Oh shit, they are doing it. Every time. Every time, then I'm like, oh shit, I think it's these guys. Oh, I think these guys are the ones doing this shit. And then they do more shit like that. I was like, okay, well, who else is it then? Who's defunding our agencies? Who's stealing money from our federal agencies? Do you think that it might be the people who suddenly went running as soon as the inauguration happened into our federal agencies to start dismantling our federal agencies, to make it so that the backlogs can never be cleared, defunding our federal agencies? Do you think that those people might possibly be the people who took the money during the pandemic? No, there's no way. There's no way who the people that everything that they do aligns with the possibility that they're probably the ones who took the money, you know, while we have no other suspects to these crimes. There's no way that Donald Trump and Elon Musk could be the ones that took that money. Yeah, Russian hackers are helping the Trump administration. There's all these pro-Trump Russian hackers out here. All these bot farms coming from Russia that support Donald Trump. Oh, there was bomb threats being called into our polls during the election. Oh, yeah, there's no way that Russians are involved in the situation. This lady must be crazy. So anyways, I was away from the house today trying to run a live stream, and for some reason, when I went to check on my live stream while I was remote, there was giraffes on my screen. And I have no photos or images of any giraffes on any of my devices at all whatsoever. So I thought that was very strange. And I got to the doctor's appointment and got onto their Wi-Fi and saw that there were still giraffes. So I'm like, okay, it's not my mobile network. It's not YouTube. Something's going on here. And my uncle called me. I called him. I texted him. I don't know. We were in communications. He called me. He did call me. Or I might have called him. He also called me, though. Pretty sure I made the first call. I told him, I'm like, look, this is what's going on with my live stream. I'm trying to stream the House of Representatives so we can watch proceedings, and for some reason there's giraffes on my screen. I'm at my doctor's appointment. This is what's going on. It's still happening while I'm on the Wi-Fi. I need you to do me a favor. Go unplug the Wi-Fi router. Okay. Now go look outside. And let me know if there's a vehicle out there. Oh, okay, there is. Okay, take a picture of the person. Oh, okay, that person looks exactly like the person that's currently harassing me in my comments. So anyways, it's documented, and all of this stuff gets documented when it happens, and I send it here or there or to whatever places I see appropriate, and I have my live stream that's running 24/7, where a lot of these things get announced, because I live on the internet, because of the fact that I am dealing with some very suspicious activity, and am blowing the whistle on what is probably the largest fraud scandal to ever take place in world history. My batteries are dying. Women are not cognitively addled. The only reason why women don't understand all the shit going on in the weird ass fucking man world is because the men like to alienate the women and not allow them to understand what is going on around them by keeping them ignorant, by treating them like aliens, because they don't understand that women are actually human beings, because they're the ones that are delusional, not us. Nope, women gotta figure out how they're gonna do all this shit and whip shit together and raise these motherfucking kids while the dudes are out here stealing for a living. And then they go and spend all their money on drugs and alcohol and shit that they don't need. And then they alienate the women when the women just try to make money, which is actually bad for GDP. The economy would be in a better state if you would stop treating women like shit. And you would probably be happier. Because all the shit I hear you guys bitching about women, that is systemic issues that you caused. That the men are causing by trying to force the women to live in a way that, for me personally, I don't want to fucking live that way. I don't want to live locked in some fucking building being a fucking waitress or whatever the fuck. Like, no, dude, I'm a landscaper, I'm a construction worker, that's what I enjoy. Why can't you motherfuckers just leave me alone and let me do my motherfucking job and quit bitching? Because it's not that I'm physically incapable, it's not that I'm mentally incompetent, but I do see that you guys are running around like, women, oh my god. Like you done seen a fucking alien fucking just come down and fucking like lay a crop circle and then beam down and like steal a cow and shit. That's how you guys treat women. That's what it's like. That's how absolutely ridiculous it looks. And then I'm running into these dudes that they don't know how to fucking feed themselves. They don't know how to clean up with themselves. It ain't got nothing to do with your gender. It's about having some basic fucking dignity and self-respect. It's about having some value as a human being, to not be just this dumb fucking lumbering animal that's waiting to die. You gotta provide some fucking value in your life. You have to actually be worth a shit as a human being. And so for me, when I clean my home and I cook my own meals, I work just as hard. I just spent the last 10 years out of my life doing construction and shit. Now I'm stuck in a fucking house like fucking dying and shit because you guys are like so fucking ridiculous out of your minds that I'm like being forced to suffer for no other reason than the fact that I'm surrounded by idiots and thieves. Nah, dude, if you gotta get me fired because I'm an easy target and that's the only way you can get a fucking pay raise, you suck. You suck at what you do if you can't earn your fucking money, and you gotta oust the woman because I'm kicking your fucking ass at work. Yeah, no, it's sad. It's sad. Okay, privilege. These men are living in a world that doesn't exist. And I'm talking about the misogynists here and the ones that are treating women like shit, because I deserve every right, just like any other human being, to be able to have a roof over my head and food in my stomach. And I work for my money. So, I'm almost 40 and still have yet to have a stable place to live that is my own, that is safe. And I'm literally like fucking dying right now because men want to throw temper tantrums. So I am gonna say something about it, because that's fucking retarded and it's stupid and y'all suck. So that's my message to the misogynist. What I see when I see a misogynist is a whiny bitch that doesn't want to fucking put any fucking effort into their own selves. Like, oh, sorry, you're stupid and lazy and whiny. That's what I see. That's what I see. Stupid, lazy, whiny. And a lot of them are abusing substances. Like, you should pour into yourself and spend less effort judging others and work on yourself. Because, like, for me, from my own perspective, I'll be doing 3 times as much, and I'm like, wow, look at this whiny bitch. Ugh. And there's something wrong with this motherfucker. I'm just like trying to put the screw in the fucking wood, and they're like freaking out and shit, dude. We were not born to be treating each other this way. This is not good for the men or the women in society to be having this destructive cycle going on. Other than that, like, there's a reason why none of y'all can get laid, and it's because you were literally trying to kill the fucking women, dude. We're human beings, we're homo sapiens, and none of us want to fucking put up with some dumb monkey that expects us to treat them like a child that never grew up past the age of 14, okay? I'm 38. I got all these years behind me of time that I've been learning and growing and developing myself as a person and becoming a better person. Not behaving like a fucking child. It ain't got nothing to do with my gender. It does, however, have everything to do with how you people out there are treating each other and what you're teaching each other. And if you're going to teach each other weakness and incompetence, then other than that, if that's the environment that the men are going to be giving to each other while shoving all the women out and like literally forcing us to like barely fucking scrape to get by, to a point that now that we've been looted by Donald Trump because he targeted the women, largely, is essentially impossible. We're going to fight you with everything that we fucking have, and we're going to win. Because it's not in any living creature's nature to just roll over and die. So of all the stupid things that you can fucking do, assuming that we're just going to roll over and die and trying to genocide the women is just the stupidest shit. So why it is that these people are taking our tax money, I don't fucking know. If we can get these native nations to start taking the imports and then, like, find a way to work around this tariff bullshit that the retard's doing, the retarded orange man that's literally trying to defraud the entire planet right now. He should not be allowed to get away with that. And I think that's what this shit with the tariffs is. Because he has literally put tariffs on half of the fucking planet now, and if everything, all the money from everything goes to Donald Trump, he's trying to defraud the entire planet. And everyone in America. Yeah, pretty sure that's what the goal is, and why this money's going to foreign countries and not to bettering America is highly questionable. And when I have Russians sitting out front of my house and Russians doing threat assessment on me when I go to pick up my medications, I really start to wonder why these things are happening. So I will hope that maybe for somebody somewhere out there this information has been useful. I'm done venting my frustrations. Don't fuck with me, fellas. It ain't my first time at the rodeo.